everyone, it's me, Jalian.
And me, Ashley Renee. We're going to start the show by taking you to the home of Carolyn Bounds.
When I first moved here, I went like, oh, this is a nice, quiet street. There were people living here. The girl was moving out here with her 2 daughters. Family there, the block was almost full.
Carolyn has lived here for more than 20 years. She grew up in the Clinton Peabody Public Housing Complex in St. Louis City. And after leaving the city in the mid-90s, she became the first in her family to own a home.
And she chose this one, with the big backyard that she filled with a play area and picnic tables. She's seen a lot of changes over the years, with neighbors moving in and out.
I used to call it the Little United Nations because we had Indians, Pakistanis, we had everything, Mexicans in this block.
Even as a senior, she keeps her grass cut and her fence line clean.
But one day, she encountered a big problem. Earlier this year, the street lights in her neighborhood were turned off, and several lights were removed, including the one outside of her home.
There are people who live here, and it's dangerous. It's dark. You would not believe. You cannot see your hand in front of your face at night.
Carolyn had been faithfully paying taxes to St. Louis County that include street lights.
The first complaint I made was to Ameren, and they told me the bill had not been paid.
Because she lives in an unincorporated area, she depends on a lighting district board to collect a check from St. Louis County and in turn make payments to the local utility company.
As it turns out, the lighting district board had failed to make payments for over a year. They racked up late fees and unpaid bills until the utility company said enough is enough and shut off the lights. To save money, the lighting district began removing the privately owned street lights.
But simply knowing the reason that the lights were shut off and removed still left Carolyn in the dark, literally and figuratively. It's around this time that James McGee stepped in to help.
The way you all was being treated, that wasn't fair.
McGee is the mayor of Veneta Park, a small municipality in North St. Louis County, and Carolyn lives just a couple of blocks outside of Veneta Park's municipal lines, so McGee could have just left the issue alone.
But instead, McGee helped get 2 new streetlights installed, one for each end of Carolyn Street, and he asked St. Louis County to investigate what happened to the money that Carolyn and her neighbors sent to the lighting district board.
And actually, if he hadn't done anything, we wouldn't even have any lights. If I hadn't voiced a complaint and he hadn't stepped in, we'd still be in the dark.
Up to this point in our season, we've been talking about big top-down structures and practices that create municipal divides and how they've made St. Louis one of the most segregated cities in America. So we decided to flip the script and talk about bridging those divides from the ground up.
On this episode, we tell you how Mayor McGee went from sharecropping in the Deep South to helping a group of mostly black mayors share resources in the fractured system they inherited. From St. Louis Public Radio and PRX, this is We Live Here, a show for people somewhere on the woke spectrum.
At the age of 73, James W. McGee has been serving as the mayor of Veneta Park for nearly a decade.
While I'm sitting in this chair here, God one put me here as a servant to serve the people. So when you look at a servant, it's no more than a waiter. You wait on people, help people.
And to understand the roots of why McGee can say that with such conviction, you need to go back to his childhood.
I was born on a plantation called Dockery, Mississippi.
And as the 4th child in his family, he knew that everyone had to pitch in to survive.
We worked in the cotton field from sun up to sundown for 50 cents a day. You didn't have water breaks. You had a water boy that would bring the water by, and you all drank from the same dipper. When the cotton season was in, school was out, and you worked in the cotton field. With my parents, we picked a bale a day. It was sharecropping. And if you know about sharecropping, that's another form of slavery. Everybody came and worked together, and everybody took something back. So we was brought up in sharing what you had and working together to move everything forward and to succeed. I graduated on a Friday morning. I had saved up enough money. That Friday evening, I was on a bus getting out of Mississippi.
He didn't know what lay ahead, but like many African Americans, he was hopeful that conditions up north might be better than the conditions in the South.
And city life was an adjustment, to say the least.
So I had enough money to get me to St. Louis. And when I got to St. Louis, I didn't know anything, didn't know anybody, didn't know how to catch the bus.
But soon after arriving in St. Louis, he was drafted and shipped out to the Vietnam War. When he came home, McGee says he struggled to reintegrate into civilian life.
Fireworks for the 4th of July, when they started popping, we would hit the ground.
Eventually, his mother helped him to seek treatment for PTSD.
And he was able to start his career in public service, which started with trouble.
And I was speeding, and I got a ticket. So I said, well, they seem to be working together. Since I can't beat them, I'll join them. So that's what I did, is what made me become a police officer, that speeding ticket. You had the authority to help people. And I looked at that as, okay, this is a way I can help people and do it legally.
And McGee says it wasn't easy serving on a suburban St. Louis County police force in the 1970s.
I was the only black there in Olivet Police Department. And then when I got to the railroad, I was the only black there as a detective. So I had blazed a lot of trails.
He moved up the ranks at a small municipal police force in Pagedale, eventually becoming chief.
He got married, and his wife, Celeste, shares his passion for public service.
She made history by being the first black woman ever on the city of Veneta Park alderperson.
Celeste was the reason that James McGee moved to Veneta Park back in 1990.
She tried to start programs, and I guess she got slapped in the face a couple of times, and she saw things that she saw needed changing.
She wanted backup, so to speak, and she convinced McGee to join her on Veneta Park City Council.
So I ran for alderman. I lost the first time, but I came back and then won the second time. And we started more programs for our children, like basketball, football, Breakfast with Santa, annual youth day. And that worked so well. And then I ran again and won. And then she said, you know, in order to change things even further, you should run for mayor. And I told her, well, you should run.
But Celeste argued that James had more experience, and she hoped that his time as the only black person in a police department and the railroad company would prepare him to become the first black mayor of Veneta Park.
As soon as James McGee was elected mayor of Veneta Park in 2010, he got a call from a St. Louis County Council member.
Yeah, Hazel Irby, the one brought us together. She called all the mayors and said we need to meet.
The Normandy School District is located in Irby's district, and it was on the verge of losing its accreditation.
We would meet at Normandy School to talk about issues that Normandy was going through.
Every month, the group of mostly black mayors asked questions and discussed possible solutions.
How can we better educate our kids? Programs, behavior, attendance.
That same year, Beyond Housing, a nonprofit community development organization, stepped in. They offered resources, assigned a government affairs person to the effort, and the mayors gave it a name, 24-1.
24-1 is 24 mayors with the vision for the Normandy School District.
Then, the mayors started to wonder, what if they could work together in other ways? And they started with, of all things, rock salt needed to keep roads clear during nasty Midwestern winters.
We was part of the Chesterfield Co-op, and we was paying like $25 or $30 for a ton for our rock salt. Pagedale was paying like $90-some for theirs, or $100 and something. And then each city then said, well, how much you pay for your rock salt? How much you pay for yours? How much you pay for yours? And we said, wow, it's such vast difference than what we was paying and they was paying. So we asked them to be a part of the Chesterfield Co-op. And a lot of them became a part of the Chesterfield Co-op, and that saved them a lot of money. So with that, we said, oh, we did with the salt, why can't we look at the street contracts, the trash contracts?
But McGee wanted to know if municipal cooperation could address one of the first problems he encountered when he became mayor.
what I found out that it was a lot of police abuse. They was treating whites really well, but the blacks, they was abusing them.
He put policies into place to address the abuse and replace the officers who refused to follow them.
But he knew more changes were needed.
Our police department, we was spending right at $1.5 million at the time, and we start doing processing and coming up with different policies and procedures. We stopped the abuse, and then we looked at the other municipalities too, and they was hurting too.
And in 2015, he decided to offer Veneta Park Police Department services to a neighboring municipality.
First one we contacted was Wellston. So Wellston, they weren't able to afford their police department, so they said that would be nice if we combined. So when we talked to them, we called it the North County Police Cooperative because we wanted to cooperate with other municipalities.
And what would set the cooperative apart would be their approach.
Now everybody's working together, not somebody being treated better than another one. Everybody now being treated the same.
At the core of North County Police Cooperative is community engagement. In just 3 years, it's grown to serve 7 municipalities in North St. Louis County.
We hopped in a squad car with Community Engagement Officer Corey Hawkinsberg to see how the new force is going about its business.
Because every week we try to have an event for each one of our communities. That way we can get out and talk and just have fun.
And we met retired resident and block watch captain Trina Clark, who said it makes a difference.
They care about the neighborhood. We've had our own police department, we've had the county police department, and everybody wants to do a good job, but they have so many other, things to do. They seem to care about. They've walked around and knocked on doors. They make sure you get feedback if you call and make a report. It's just, you feel a caring police department. And so I have a relationship with them.
And slowly, through the years, McGee and his counterparts have been scaling up their collaborative effort to bring residents top-notch services, even if that means taking a hard look in the mirror about how they handle law and order. Even though the mayors were steadily making improvements, things weren't perfect in the 24-1 communities. After the deadly encounter between Michael Brown Jr. and a Ferguson police officer in 2014, small towns in North St. Louis County went under a national spotlight. The ensuing outcry over policing was, in part, what motivated McGee to start the North County Police Cooperative.
And the scrutiny over municipal court practices prompted the 24-1 mayors to make a list of 12 best practices for the fractured system of municipal courts they had inherited. They went up to the state capitol to share what they came up with, and legislators drafted a municipal court reform bill, Senate Bill 5, to cap the amount of revenue that municipalities could receive from municipal court fees and fines.
If you want to dig into the politics and debate around this topic, search stlouispublicradio.org for stories. We highly recommend this coverage. The bill was designed to reduce the incentive for small towns to use their citizens as ATMs to fund their budgets. But it was written in such a way that the cap for small towns in St. Louis County, like Veneta Park, was lowered from 30% to 12.5%, while the cap was 20% in the rest of the state.
We went to bat on that because that was blatant discrimination, and we just weren't going to go for it. So we sued the state.
Almost all of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit were cities or mayors in the 24-1 area. They argued that it created an unconstitutional special law by targeting small towns in St. Louis County with a different cap than the rest of the state.
And then we won.
This ruling brought their cap to the same 20% mandated across the state. But McGee says that if they were going to address the real, valid, underlying concerns brought up by Senate Bill 5, there was more work to do.
So what we did, we said, okay, how can we save money with our courts? So what we did, we merged a lot of our courts. We have 2 court hubs now.
The court hub in St. Anne serves 5 municipalities, and the hub in Normandy serves 8. And they found that consolidating the courts was more sustainable.
Bonita Park just cannot afford to hire all the people that you're going to need to run that court system and be separate.
Mayor McGee doesn't like to sit still, and in the aftermath of these sweeping changes in policing and municipal court reforms, he brought municipal cooperation to the next level.
We merged with Bonita Terrace because Bonita Terrace came to us and said that it would be better for them to merge with us than to go unincorporated.
Bonita Terrace was Bonita Park's tiny neighbor.
At the time, Bonita Terrace covered less than 40 acres, while Bonita Park had around 10 times as many acres and 6 times the number of residents. The two cities already shared a name, school, and law enforcement services. But after Senate Bill 5 was passed, Bonita Terrace would struggle to stay solvent with a mandated decrease in municipal court revenues. Dissolving Bonita Terrace and merging it with Bonita Park allowed the residents to retain local representation while obtaining new professional full-time services like public works, clerks, financial services, and trash pickup. At the core of this process was local control.
The state didn't get involved in our merger. The county didn't get involved in our merger. It was just between Bonita Terrace and Bonita Park. And that's the benefit of volunteering the merger, not being forced and having it forced down your throat.
Even though Mayor McGee has made waves bridging divides in local government, he understands that much of the work isn't about monumental changes and large-scale initiatives.
Sometimes it's more mundane. We went to one of the monthly mayor's meetings held at Beyond Housing's headquarters, which used to be a vacant school, and we found that the mayors are still busy finding ways to cut costs and make things better for their residents. They were saving money by going in on bids for health insurance for city employees.
The provider will need additional information to ascertain the need of each organization to formalize a scope of service and cost. Also, the cities may create
Cooperating on a regular basis has profoundly changed the life for residents in the 24-1 area and the way the mayors think about running local government.
So we had the resources, but we wasn't really pooling those resources. Now the 24-1 is pooling those resources and giving our kids jobs where they can survive, giving our community the effort to shop in their own community.
Their efforts got bolder and bolder, and they decided to solve a huge problem.
There were no banks in the 24-1 area, and that's because many of the neighborhoods were declared blighted.
Blighted mean dodge the black area. It's like a donut. There's a hole there, and when they hear that blacks is in that area, they go around it. So that's what they blight that area. In other words, pull all the resources out of that area.
The mayor sued HUD to get a bank in the 24-1 footprint, and they won.
Now they're glad they put that bank in our area because that bank is really succeeding 3 times more than what they had expected.
McGee thinks that their collective effort threatens the way things have been in the region for a long time.
So that's why you find the powers that be trying to stop that. That's why you had an organization called Better Together.
Better Together is a nonprofit backed by index fund pioneer and tax cut proponent Rex Sinkfeld. It included some of the wealthiest, most powerful people in the region. And at the start of 2019, they proposed creating a megacity that would merge St. Louis City and County. The effort dissolved just months after it launched and was heavily criticized by Black officials. To catch up on what happened, listen to our first episode of the season, At the Table and Dismissed. Better Together had very little interaction with mayors in the 24-1 footprint. McGee says it's like they didn't care about what they had to say.
But we was better together before Better Together. Better Together sound good, but they was out to destroy our community. And we just weren't going to let that happen.
And he wonders, what would happen if he and the rest of the mostly Black mayors in the 24-1 area had the same resources?
Singfeld, that's rich. He gave $25 million to that Better Together. Just think if he'd have gave us the $25 million, what we could have did that with our children.
But these what-ifs haven't stopped the mayors from moving forward.
Now we're getting homes for the homeless, building homes. I know when we went down the hood and helped Pine Line get 41 homes built, we was for that. Hood said they never saw anything like it. Other mayors coming from other cities, helping out other cities to try to get a grant to build 41 homes for another city. They never saw that in their life. So that was one of the things that motivated us to help one another. It doesn't matter what city it is, as long as it's progress in the 24-1 footprint.
And because Mayor McGee and the rest of the 24-1 mayors have accomplished so much with the imperfect system they inherited, they are skeptical of any effort that might threaten the representation and local control that they have fought so hard for.
If you've been listening to this show, you've heard us mention the Board of Freeholders, or Board of Electors. It's a group that could recommend sweeping changes to how St. Louis City and County are governed. Local voters will have the final say. And McGee is wary of what might happen.
One thing going to bring us down is greed. And the one that have money and the one that have not, the haves want to tell the have not, we can run it better than you can, even though you in your community. I'm not in your community, but I can tell you how to run your community. That's just like coming into your home, telling a stranger coming into your house, telling you how to run your house. And they don't even live there. So one, just cause bigger don't make it better. One size don't fit all.
As McGee and his colleagues navigate the crooked municipal lines that define the place they call home, it's worth keeping something in mind. They didn't make this system of local government. If you listen to the bonus episode, Divided by Design, that we shared just before dropping this one, then you understand how the desire to keep Black people out was a major factor in how these towns were created.
There is not one mayor alive today that created this system, right? They all inherited them.
Chris Krameyer is the CEO of Beyond Housing, a nonprofit that's been facilitating the 24-1 initiative that McGee helps to lead.
If we were to redesign it today, would this be the system? Probably not. But it's the one that exists. So let's work with folks who live in these communities, who pay their taxes, and ask them, what kind of government do you want? What's important to you? You pay taxes. You send your kids to the schools here. Let's figure out what's important to you and honor that like we do in every other community in the region.
While the work has been slow, and getting politicians to agree on anything can be, challenging.
McGee says they've laid the foundation to building a higher quality of life for residents in an area that's seen decades of disinvestment.
We have the grocery store, we have a bank, we have 3 senior citizen buildings, we have a coffee shop, and we're looking at that economic development. How can we help our children get jobs? We had to create the resources there, and like building the 24-1 cinema. Now we hire our young people that wouldn't have a job. Now they can come there and work and survive. The grocery store, we hire our own, keeping our resources within our own community. Instead of going out someplace else, going to a movie, now we can go to the 24-1 cinema, support our own.
This show is produced by me, Jalian.
And me, Ashley Renee. Lauren Brown is our associate producer. Our show is overseen by Tim Lloyd, senior producer of On Demand and Content Partnerships.
And Robert Peterson, the director of radio programming and operations from St. Louis Public Radio and PRX. This is We Live Here.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
From